Georges Seurat, and his use of color and a specific technique which was labeled pointillism. And Seurat was born in Paris, France in 1859, December 2nd of 1859. And he was one of 3 children. He has a brother had a brother and a sister. He, I think, always knew he wanted to be an artist of some sort, and started taking drawing lessons and studied in a school. And then he continued his studies and started getting into painting and creating this technique of use of color, where he would use the primary colors to make other colors. And by doing that, he would either make dots or little tiny motions with his brush or with paint, or we're going to be using oil pastels, but with the color. And he would blend the colors together by putting them so closely together. So in order for him to make purple, he would take red and blue to get his correct shade of purple that he wanted to do. So you'll see in a lot of his art, we can just use his book for example, he didn't actually use the color green to get all of these greens in here. He used blue and yellow together in different mixes of it to get the shades that he wanted to have. So that's what we're going to try to teach the kids how to do with this project. So he was really, reviews were mixed on him during this time. Like in 1883, I believe, is when he created his first, it took him a year to do this painting here. And it's called the Bathers, and I won't pronounce it in French because my accent isn't very good, I apologize. But Bathers painting by the Salon. So he did this in 1883, completed it in 1884, and he submitted it to the Salon, which I know we've talked about other artists that we've studied as well. They've taken their art there to show, and it was rejected. It was not well received. They did not like it. They thought that it was too, I don't know if the word is mechanical, or like just didn't enjoy it at all. So they rejected him, and he was kind of bummed out by that. But he kept on going, so much like all the other artists we've learned about, and created this one here, which it's the Sunday afternoon that you can see here, and we'll have other images of it, but they're all in the binder. Everything that I'm holding up is in the binder that you guys will have. And he created this one, which turns out was very well received. And again, it took him a long time to do. But the critics felt that his use of color was, no one had ever seen anything like that before. And in order to get his colors, using that kind of color wheel with the primary colors. So another interesting fact about him, when he was studying, in between when he was studying and created these 2 masterpieces, he had to go into the military from 1879 to 1880. So he did take kind of a step away from it for a while and then got back into it. He had, I think in his lifetime, which was very short, he died at the age of 31 on March 29, 1891. They say that his death is uncertain. They weren't quite sure specifically how he died, but they do feel that it was complications of meningitis, pneumonia, and things like that at that time. He left his final work, his final piece that he was working on, unfinished. He created about 40 small paintings in his lifetime, and then these 2 massive ones, which can be found in the Art Institute of Chicago. They're there now, which are incredible to see in person. I think I spoke about, he was really praised for, once people got over this new idea of painting and this new kind of theory of painting, he was truly praised for his sense of color and his use of light within his paintings. And it caused a lot of emotion in everybody who looked at the artwork in person, whether they thought it was horrible or they thought it was fantastic. It really stirred people inside, and I think that was the one big takeaway people had from his art. And so he wasn't necessarily, like most of our artists, wasn't necessarily recognized during his lifetime for his creations and his masterpieces. It came much later. So but you can see it now. People use his art or his style of art in cartoons, in storybooks. And I have here, this was a cover of the New Yorker magazine from 1991, that they used this style to create a scene from, one of their local parks in New York City. So it's people, it really is used all the time, even to this day. And I think it's one of those important artists that we should all learn about, and especially the kids. So I'm excited that we get to do them today. So Seurat really wanted to keep the colors pure, so to keep them real. So that's why he didn't want to necessarily blend the colors together before he painted. He wanted, or worked with color, he wanted to use the true colors side by side to create the colors, like I mentioned before. So, and I've, in here, I'll show you my little color wheel I took a picture of, and you can see how the primary colors are used here. The yellow, the red, and the blue are the primary colors, but when mixed together, they create these other colors. And so that's something that we really want to be able to have the kids do when they're creating their own projects. So the kids will get an opportunity to work, instead of using paints, we're going to be using oil pastels. So they'll work in their small groups at their tables. There should be enough tablecloths. They have their smocks in the classroom. Hopefully this won't be as messy as it is with paint or some other things that we've worked with in the past, but we do want to be cautious of the kids' clothing and things like that. Andy has said that it can really come off on clothes and floor and bits like that, so we'll make sure to do that. But they'll each, in their table, they each should get at least one box of pastels, maybe two, and they can share the colors amongst them. It may be a bit of a challenge for the kids to, I think all of them know what the primary colors are and what colors that they can create, but we'll, kind of reintroduce that to them just as a reminder for them so that they can see it.
What about making some samples, like on a paper plate, and
Yeah.
put them out on the table so they can look at it
Absolutely.
and see how it
The
blended?
the paper plates are in the art closet,
Okay.
so that'll be easy to do if you want
Okay.
to grab a few of those and
And
show
just
that
make
to
some
them.
samples or whatever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Just so that they know, so that when they're making their own project, they can kind of figure out the scientific part of it, of having those colors together. But I don't want them to get frustrated. I mean, part of the process is, for any artist, is there are frustrations along the way. So if they want to take similar colors or light colors to make their art, I don't think that we should deter them from doing that. Again, this is their work, what they want, their ownership of it. So if they want to blend, great. If they want to keep them separate, great. But just so that they know what the idea is. And then I have some examples here that are kid projects that were done that using that pointillism method, using the dots and with paint and with other medium as well to create their scenes. I suggest in the binder, I suggested that rather than doing one big great scene, like maybe taking an animal or something like a heart or something, I guess similar, or just this smaller, so that they could do it on a smaller sheet of paper, so that it won't be so big and so grand and maybe overwhelming for them when they kind of take a look at it. We've got different sizes of paper to use, but I think smaller might be better, but you can gauge it. Kindergartners, it might be easier for them to go on a smaller side. Maybe third graders can use a larger, maybe if they want to do a scene, great. It's going to take time. I mean, this gigantic wall of his original, the bathers and the Sunday afternoon. It took him over a year to do, and granted they were huge, but it is going to take them some time to kind of figure that out, to do it on a smaller scale. I think it would be better. And that's about it. It's going to be, again, like everything will be in the bins. You'll have the binders in there to explain everything. The oil pastels, the paper, the books will be included, the binder will be in there, and then paper plates, the tablecloths and things like that, whatever accessories you might want to do. Feel free to personalize it every which way you guys want to do it, and make it different and unique. And whatnot. But I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway is taking that small, whether it's the dot or the small little stroke, if they're gonna take that pastel and kind of rub it a little bit, they can kind of manipulate it with their fingers. That's also what's nice to do with the oil pastels, to kind of make those smaller dots or little tiny motions to show it off.
And do you think we should have them sketch it first? Or
If
just
they
start
wanted
with the
to,
dot?
yeah, if they want to sketch, like if they decide to do an animal or a figure or a baseball or whatever it
Yeah.
is that they want to do, it might be nice to do the outlining shape. If they can, which they might need some guidance with that a little bit from us, but the younger they are, but totally up to them, or what you think that your class is, capable of doing or comfortable doing.
And these pastels have the most awesome colors.
Yeah, they're very
Like, yeah, they're so
vibrant,
Yeah.
kind of powerful. Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
Instead of using their fingers, could they use Q-tips to blend it, so it's not all
You
over their
don't show
hands?
me.
Yeah,
that's
if
what
they
I
want to
mean.
do that, that's a
Okay.
great idea. If they
And
want
put a
to,
little
yeah,
paint.
Just to avoid maybe the.
absolutely.
You can scratch into it too and make
Yeah.
a really nice texture.
Yeah, that's great.
Like now with fingers.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I don't care if they use their fingers, but it's
So
an
they'll
idea
have-
if they
they've
want
got
to use, cause some kids may not wanna
toothpicks,
touch it.
We have toothpicks in the art
Yep,
room, in
you
the
have
closet,
a-
as well as, not stemware, the forks, knives and spoons,
Yeah.
the plastic, so, yeah, those are there too, if they wanna use those to manipulate it in any way, so.
This is neat, because this looks like a study, like a beginning study with the dots.
Yeah, absolutely, and he took it, I think his colors evolved, the
Yeah.
longer he worked on it, the more rich and the more powerful the colors and the shapes began
Mhm.
to take place. I mean, like the skin tone for the people, I mean, like he kept working on it and taking different shades and trying to make it, the right color that he was seeing, or he envisioned. So, I mean, just that little tiny bit of blue in there, or the mixed in with the grays and the greens and just to get all of that. There's another one. And you can see this one isn't necessarily the dots. This was early on before he really, I guess, I don't know, kind of got a total grasp on what he was doing. So this has more texture to it in the beginning with the rubbing and with the strokes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the use of color is still the same, trying to get that color. So, which is in the book. You'll see it in the book as well. I wrote everything down. But there's one, it's a brief biography and artwork of Seurat, and that student did a project of. And so it runs, kind of a few minutes long or whatever. But it's the YouTube. If you look up George Seurat, brief biography and artwork, great for kids and ESL. So you'll see it. So just type that in and it'll come up. And then the other one I like to use is that Maddie and Dada, which is that animated kids video that they go into the painting and they're talking to Seurat about all of his style. So I thought that would be a really great way to introduce it to the kids before they sit down and do the project. You can talk a little bit about it, give them a brief history, and show the videos, and then start the project.